Would Chris Webber have been the difference in the 1994 Midwest Regional between the Michigan Wolverines and the Arkansas Razorbacks? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76 Sports. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. If you want to put something in the tip jar, that information is below in the description box. And also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter, as I am a writer working on a basketball-related book, in addition to a YouTube content creator. Well, I wanted to come back and shoot a retrospective slash historical piece relating to the Michigan basketball program, and this is appropriate as we're heading into March Madness and the tournament season. And the idea for this, well, this is something I've always wondered about and thought about, and I actually capture this in my book project, The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story, because I was in high school when the Fab Five came on the scene and made history, and then as the members of that class gradually went to the NBA and then graduated. But towards the end of my stream discussing the Michigan-Wisconsin post-game punch, slap, melee, debacle, whatever you want to call it, towards the end of that stream, me and Buckeye Alex started talking about the Fab Five because Juwan Howard was a part of the Fab Five, and we started talking about the 1994 Midwestern regional game between the Michigan Wolverines and the Arkansas Razorbacks. And I think that one of the questions, and I don't know if any Arkansas fans are going to watch this, but one of the questions, at least in my mind, and I'm certain in the minds of other sports fans, that a question that people have had and a question people will always have is whether or not Arkansas would have won that game if Chris Webber had stayed for his junior season. So I'm going to reflect on that and speculate on that in this short what if / retrospective video. So I'm going to start with one of the most fun parts of sports and arguably one of the most nerve-wracking parts of sports, and that is the what if. As you know, there's competition and games are decided within the lines, but games are not always played under the most ideal and perfect circumstances. There are injuries, there are suspensions, there are players leaving early for the pros, there are suspect calls from the referees, there are all kinds of variables that affect the outcomes of the games that you don't factor in the preseason, and then even before tip-off or kickoff or the dropping of the puck or whatever. There's so many variables that affect sports, and so oftentimes we wonder, what if? What if Scott Norwood hit the field goal against the New York Giants? What if what if Magic and Byron Scott were healthy in that that NBA Finals when the Detroit Pistons won their first NBA title? What if LeBron James and Steph Curry played in the 1980s NBA when there was more contact? The same thing is true for Kevin Durant. What if? What would have happened? Would the outcomes have been differently? What if in the 2016 Michigan-Ohio State game, what if Wilton Speight was 100% healthy? What if our team was able to get more push at the line of scrimmage? What if? Would we have won that game and gone into the college football playoff? What if? You never know. What if for the Syracuse basketball program, I think his name was Fab Mello, what if he had done his schoolwork and he was eligible for the NCAA tournament? Would Syracuse have made a deeper tournament run that season? What if Paul Pierce had come back and played all 4 years? Would Carmelo Anthony's Syracuse team have won the national championship that season? What if? The truth is, with sports, you never know. You just line up the two teams that you have on that particular day, and you play the games, and history remembers the winner and the loser. But I remember oftentimes the history behind the games and who was there and who wasn't, and who the injuries and who was injured. And I'm the type of fan who remembers the what if. So the 1994 Midwestern regional game took place in Dallas at Reunion Arena, and it was between the Michigan Wolverines and the Arkansas Razorbacks. Coach Nolan Richardson's Arkansas Razorbacks, they I think held the number one ranking for most of the season in terms of the top 25. They played the 40 minutes of hell defense that Nolan Richardson, that was his hallmark. They feature Corey Beck at the point guard position, Scotty Thurman at the two guard position, Clint McDaniel coming off the bench, I believe, Big Nasty Corliss Williamson, Alex Dillard, those guys, Lee Wilson, all those guys. And then on the other side, you had the Michigan Wolverines, now the Fab Four: Juwan Howard, Jalen Rose, Jimmy King, Ray Jackson. And in place of Chris Webber, who had declared for the NBA draft, now you were starting Dugan Fife. And not only that, you lost all your seniors. You lost James Voskuhl. You lost Eric Riley. You lost Michael Talley. You lost Rob Pelinka. There are some things I want to say about Rob Pelinka and the Lakers, but I won't say it. Because that goes beyond the scope of this video. But you had the Fab Four back, but you also had a different supporting cast. And as I watched that game, and keep in mind that the Wolverines, the Fab Five, and those seniors whose names I just rattled off, they made it to the national championship game the previous 2 years. They suffered a lopsided loss to the Christian Laettner Duke Blue Devils. And then they suffered a heartbreaking loss to the Donald Williams, Derek Phelps, Eric Montross, George Lynch, North Carolina Tar Heels, which many argue that they should have won. And as Buckeye Alex described, if they play 10 times, Michigan probably wins 9 out of 10 times. But anyway, so it was arguably a different Michigan team, but the Fab, they had 4 out of the 5 Fab Five players back. And as I was sitting there watching the game as a senior in high school, it was a close game. Arkansas won that game 76-68, so they only won by 8 points. But it was a game in which, when you watched it, it was a game of spurts based upon the style of play that Nolan Richardson's team played. They played an up and down style of basketball with trapping. They went on a series of spurts throughout the game. And Michigan was able to slow the game down in spurts and close the lead down in spurts. And then the Arkansas Razorbacks, every time Michigan did that, the Razorbacks went on another run to push themselves back out in front. And there was a key stretch in the second half where Michigan got the score down to maybe 1 to 5 points, and they almost went ahead, but there was either a turnover or a missed basket, and they didn't get the offensive rebound or something, a foul or something, and Arkansas pulled ahead for good, and they won that game. They beat Arizona in the national semifinal, and then they went ahead and defeated the Grant Hill Duke Blue Devils in the national final game, which was a really exciting game to watch. But I always wondered afterwards, and I wondered as I was watching the game, how would this game have unfolded if Chris Webber were playing? And it's my opinion, Buckeye Alex agreed, and I'm sure there are other sports fans out there who agree that if Chris Webber plays in that game, Michigan wins the game. Because the Wolverines were, without him, with the Fab Four and Dugan Fife and that young supporting cast, they were right there with Arkansas. But as you know, Chris Webber was a game changer. Chris Webber was the X factor for the Fab Five. He was 6'9". He was 6'10". He was agile. He was graceful. He was skilled. And one of the things when I think about Chris Webber, and I'm talking about in college and even in his early pro career, one of the things that I always think about when I think about Chris Webber is that Chris Webber made the game look easy, and Chris Webber made the game look fun. He could impose his will around the basket, but he could also get out and handle the ball in the open court. And oftentimes doing playground moves like throwing no-look passes and putting the ball, putting the ball around his back, doing that around the world thing for finger rolls, and he just made the game look easy. I think maybe the only weaknesses in his game was maybe outside shooting at that time and free throw shooting, but he just made the game look fun. He made it look effortless, and he made it look easy. And I'm thinking about, if you go and watch the Fab 5 30 for 30, I'm thinking about the play where they're playing at Notre Dame and Ray Jackson is advancing the ball, and he throws Chris the alley-oop, and Chris catches it with one hand and slams it through and just runs up the court with that grin, that childish, mischievous grin. And you just know that with those abilities added to the abilities of the other members of the Fab Five, the height, the athletic ability, the skill across the board, Chris would have given Michigan the decisive advantage over Arkansas, in my opinion. And they obviously do go back to the national championship game. They would have matched up against Grant Hill's Duke team, which was very, very good. That was a very, very good Duke team. Arguably better than the two Christian Laettner teams. But they beat Arkansas because Arkansas won with their defense, and they won by wearing their opponents down. That's how they won. But with Chris Webber's height and his abilities combined with the other four members of the Fab Five, I think that they would have been able to neutralize and negate what Arkansas was able to do. Of course, Chris was the number one pick. There was the swap between Golden State and Orlando. Penny Hardaway went to Orlando. After that 1994 season, Jalen and Juwan went to the pros. Ray Jackson and Jimmy King were left, and they got eliminated in the first round the next season by Texas, and that was it for the Fab Five. So anyway, I just wanted to shoot this retrospective video. This is something in terms of sports that I always wonder about, and I think I know what the answer is. I think that Chris Webber would have given them a decisive advantage over Nolan Richardson's Arkansas Razorbacks. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It was, this is 2022. This is almost 30 years ago. Does it even matter at this point? Well, that's a fun part of sports. We always wonder what if. We always wonder how things would have turned out if a player wasn't injured, or if a player was eligible, or if a player hadn't gone to the pros, or if the refs had called the game a certain way, or if a coach had stayed. This is one of the most fun parts of sports. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. And I will do some content on the NCAA tournament, sprinkled in with the Michigan football content and content on my book project, The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story. So everyone, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to throw something in the tip jar, that information is below in the description box. Please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. Go Blue. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.